living by the sea but working in London, an arrangement too good to resist for many Brits. Brighton and Hove is just an hour away from the capital by train, but there's a catch. Commuters here are at the mercy of a line they describe as nightmarish.
This is my season ticket. It costs just over £4,000, which is about 8% of my salary. And it gets me between Hove and London Victoria, so it doesn't even let me travel around the rest of London.
Seats, meanwhile, are hard to come by, if that is the service is running. The line's been affected by some 40 strikes in just over 2 years. That aside from near daily delays.
I've hired people who live along this line who actually can't afford to come to work anymore, or who are so stressed that they just don't want to work in London.
When the state privatised UK railways in the 1990s, it said free market competition would mean better service at lower prices. But today British trains are the second most expensive in Europe after Switzerland, and 60% of voters want the railways to return to state control.
Before privatisation, back in the 1970s and 80s, growing up in Manchester, we had National Rail, and I do remember that it was very punctual, and I just remember it being very cheap.
These trains are making so much money, and part of the money could be plowed back into improving the services.
Another contentious issue, the fact that 25 years after state-owned British Rail ceased to exist, many companies in charge of Britain's trains aren't even British.
Most of the train operators, and there's about 20 different franchises, are run by foreign state-owned companies. So SNCF is involved, Deutsche Bahn is involved. So we have a very odd situation where all these foreign state-owned companies are running our services, but a British government company would not be allowed to do so.
Train operators turned down our requests for interviews, directing us instead to a group which defends the UK rail franchising system.
It's a myth that these profits are all being routed to shareholders and they're enormous profits. Also, the franchisees take a lot of risk in taking the franchises on. They're not guaranteed a profit.
One former transport minister isn't buying it. For him, the current system is chaotic and insufficiently competitive. France must avoid making the same mistakes.
My advice to President Macron over the management of the French railways would be bring in competition, but don't weaken SNCF as a company. What you want is strong private operators, strong public operators, good competition between the two.
In compliance with EU directives, France is preparing to open up its railways to competition. The government insists the SNCF will remain a public company. But French rail unions look across the channel and worry that privatisation isn't so far off.